Hi, everybody. Good evening. I thought with all this craziness going on, we could all use a good story. So we'll tell a story tonight, and over the course of the next day or weeks, we might tell some more stories. Some stories to go to bed by, some stories to get up by, some stories just to share. I love stories. I've always loved stories. Collected stories. This story is a favorite of my story for a really simple reason. I love challah. I mean, what's better on Shabbat than challah? And my mom and dad, they are bakers. My father's a baker. My mother's a bakery lady. Challah was an important part of my life growing up. And this is a story about challah. Here's how it goes. A long time ago, in a place far away, there was a little Jewish village. And in the village were two Jewish men. Reb Chaim was the richest man in the world. Richest man in the town. Richest man anywhere. He lived in a big house on top of the hill. And when Shabbos came, Reb Chaim put on a beautiful coat. And he took his big furry hat and his walking stick. And he walked down the hill, down the hill into the village. And he walked up to the synagogue, and he walked to the very front of the synagogue, where he had a special seat that was reserved just for Reb Chaim, the wealthy patron of the town. And when the prayers were over, Reb Chaim would wish everyone good Shabbos, and he would walk slowly through the synagogue, up the hill to his beautiful house, and there the butler, he would enter the door, and he would sit together, all by himself, together with nobody, because Reb Chaim had no family. Reb Chaim was alone. Reb Chaim would sit at a beautiful table, and a table was set with golden dishes and golden silverware and beautiful crystal. And Reb Chaim would enjoy it. Well, he thought for a moment, and he said, well, maybe God has this wonderful idea. So he called the baker, and he said, no one makes challahs like yours. They're so light. They're so fluffy. They're like clouds. Next week, when Shabbos comes, I want you to make me 2 more challahs. And wrap them up real nice, because I'm taking them someplace special. Sure enough, the next Shabbos came, and as Reb Chaim was ready to go off to shul, the baker met him at the door with a bag. And Reb Chaim could feel it was still warm. The challahs had just come out of the oven, and they smelled so good. And he said, thank you, my friend, thank you. And he takes the challahs down to the synagogue. No one's there. All by himself. He stands in front of the ark, the beautiful holy ark of the synagogue. And he makes a prayer. Rabbeinu Shalom, Master of the world, Creator of all, I bring you a present. Your Shabbos should be as wonderful as mine. Here, take these challahs. Enjoy a Shabbos as beautiful as my Shabbos. And Reb Chaim takes the package of the 2 challahs, and he opens the doors of the ark, and he puts the challahs in the ark, just behind the Torahs. And he sits down, and the prayers begin. And Reb Chaim is filled with a sense of joy, of such happiness. He hasn't felt this happy ever in his life. He's sharing his Shabbos now with God. Now, finally, he's together on Shabbos. Finally, there's someone who will share his Shabbos with him. Reb Chaim wishes everyone a good Shabbos, and he walks out of the synagogue, marches up to the top of the hill, and sits down at his table and says to the baker, you did something wonderful tonight. Next week, 2 more challahs. Remember I said Chaim was one of the 2 Jews in the town? the other man, the other Jewish man in the town, Rabbi Yankel. Oy, Rabbi Yankel, Rabbi Yankel. Rabbi Yankel was the poorest man in the town. He may have been the poorest man in the world at that point. He worked so hard all week, and he made a penny or 2 pennies. And come Shabbos, he had nothing to bring home. And you know, it was his good luck, his blessing, that his house was filled with family. He had a wife, he had her parents, he had 6 or 7 children, he had nieces and nephews, and his aunts and uncles. The whole house was filled with people waiting to make Shabbos, and Rabbi Yankel was supposed to come home and bring food for the Shabbos, but you know, it was such a bad week, and he couldn't make a living, and he had no money to bring home, no food to bring home, no challah, no wine, no joy. So when the synagogue emptied out, and there was nobody there, poor Rabbi Yankel, he walked to the front of the shul, and he stood in front of the ark, and he said, "Dear God, you know Rabbi Yankel works so hard, and he tries to make a living for his family. But dear God, what can a man do? How can we make a living? How can you make a living in this world? But at home, you know, dear God, is a whole family, my wife and my children, her mother and father, my aunts and uncles. Am I supposed to go home? Am I supposed to go home and see the hunger on their faces? Am I supposed to go home and see the pain in their eyes? Am I supposed to go home and see how disappointed they are? No, I will not go home," he said. "I will not do this. I will not go home. I refuse to go home. I refuse to go home and see the hunger in my children's eyes. If you want me to go home, God, you had better make a miracle." And when he made this prayer, he banged his fists against the door of the ark. The doors of the ark opened up, and out fell a package with 2 beautiful, warm, fluffy, light challahs. "Oh, look at this," says Rabbi Yankel. "Look, challahs, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Oh, what a joy. What a miracle. It's a miracle." Well, Rabbi Yankel, he runs home, and he sits the family down, and he puts the challahs on the table, and he says, "Kinderlach, children, tonight you're going to taste something you've never tasted before." And they make a bracha, and everyone takes a piece, and it's the taste of heaven. Truly the taste of heaven. And out of the children come a song, Shabbos song, and they sing, and they all get up from the table and they dance, and everyone has another shtickle of challah and another song and another dance, and it's the happiest Shabbos that Rabbi Yankel's family has ever had. Well, the Shabbos goes by, and the week goes by. And this time, Reb Chaim, he's ready for shul, and there's the baker with another package of challahs. And he says, "Thank you, my friend. This is a mitzvah. You are going to thank me. This is a great mitzvah." And he carries the challahs down to the ark, down to the synagogue. He stands in front of the ark. He opens the doors of the ark and says, "Rabbeinu Shalom, master of the world, you must love challah. Because in the morning when we came back to synagogue, there wasn't a crumb left. So I bring you 2 more. Your Shabbos should be as good as my Shabbos. And your joy should be as high as my joy. Amen." And he closes the ark. Well, Reb Chaim, he davens. He wishes everyone good Shabbos. He walks up to his beautiful house and sits at his golden table. And Reb Yankel, another bad week. Reb Yankel. So Reb Yankel comes from the back of the shul. He's the only one there. And he walks to the front. And he turns his eyes toward heaven and says, "Master of the world, I know you have bigger things to worry about than Reb Yankel and his kinderlach, his children. But would it be so hard, maybe? I know you're not supposed to ask for a miracle twice. But would it be so hard to give Reb Yankel a little hand? It's been another tough week. New God, would it be so hard?" And just to make sure, he opens the ark just a crack to take a look. And sure enough, out of the ark comes Another package with 2 more challahs. Ha! Look at this! More challahs for my family. And he runs home and he says, Kinderlach, another Shabbos with challah. And they say the brachas, and everyone takes a piece. Oh, it's like heaven. And there's song, and there's dance, and there's joy, and there's happiness, and there's peace. Well, this goes on for a year. Every single Friday afternoon, Reb Chaim comes down the hill with a package full of challahs and stands in front of the ark and he says, Dear God, I bring you challah. Last week we put in raisins. This week we put in poppy seeds. Every week a little different. You two should have variety. And every week comes Reb Yankel and he says, Master of the world, would you find it in your heart maybe to help out Reb Yankel? And he opens and there's another challah. Whoa, look at this. And there's joy. And there's happiness. And there's peace. Until one day. Until one Friday night, the shamus, that's the guy who cleans up the synagogue, you know. The shamus forgot to sweep. It happens. So just before Shabbos begins, before the synagogue is filled with people to pray, he runs down to the synagogue with a broom, ready to sweep, and he sees the strangest thing he's ever seen in his life. There is the richest man in the town, Reb Chaim, standing in front of the ark, making a prayer about, Dear God, thank you for accepting my challahs. Thank you for enjoying the challahs. I hope you like the raisin and the cinnamon this week, chocolate chip. Now, the shamus knows that in the morning, when they open the synagogue for prayers, there's no challahs in the ark, so he knows that someone's coming to take them. So he waits. And sure enough, at the end of the service comes Reb Yankel. And the shamus, standing off to the side so no one can see him, watches the poorest man in the town make a prayer. Dear God, my children are getting older, they need strength. But the world is so cruel and difficult, it's hard to make a living. You think you could find it in your heart, in all the graciousness of the universe? You think you can bring me just a challah? And he opens the ark. Oh, and out come the challahs. Thank you, God. Thank you. At this, the shamus begins to laugh. Ha! You guys! Wait. He says, stay right here. And he runs out of the synagogue. And he finds Reb Chaim, the rich man, and he pulls him back into the synagogue and says, wait, you got to see this. You've got to see what this is. And the two men, for the very, very first time, they face each other. Reb Chaim sees this poor man carrying his bag of challahs. Reb Yankel sees this rich man and realizes that's where they came from. The shamus laughs, a mean, cruel laugh. You are fools. You think God provides for you on Shabbos? You think God makes challahs? You think God accepts your challahs? You think God needs your challah? You think God cares what happens to you on Shabbos? You are fools, says the shamus, fools. And they cry. The rich man cries because now the gift that he brought to God, it was just this beggar who took it. And the poor man cries because he thought God was caring and providing for him and his children. It was just this miser. And they each go home and they spend a Shabbos in tears and sadness. At the end of Shabbat, on Saturday night, when the Havdalah is said and the night becomes dark, each of the men, the three, the rich man, the poor man, and the shamus, receive a message to come see the rabbi. Now, this wasn't your kind of rabbi. This was a scary rabbi, powerful rabbi with magic powers. And the three of them, Reb Chaim, Reb Yankel, and the shamus, they walk into the rabbi's room. And there is the rabbi sitting behind a desk, and the desk is piled with holy books. And the rabbi has a wild and angry look in his face, and tears running down his cheeks. He's been crying, he's been praying. Do you know what you did? Do you know What just happened, says the Rebbe? God is so angry. God is ready to destroy the world. God is so upset. God is so disappointed. I prayed, give me a chance, God. Give me a chance. Let me do tikkun. Let me fix this. Let me make this better. God said, take a night and then I will decide. He looked at the rich man. He said, you wanted to share Shabbos? You wanted to share your joy, your bounty, all that you have with God? God accepted your gift. It brought God joy in God's heart to accept your gift. And the rich man began to protest. He said, no, it was this poor man. No, said the Rebbe. It was God who accepted your gift. And you did. You did bring God joy. And then he turned to the poor man and said, You imagine that God cared so much for you and your kindlech, your children, that God provided challah. God did provide challah. God did provide for you. It wasn't this rich man. No. This was a miracle. A miracle set into the world since the beginning of time. And God has waited for this moment. And this year brought God's heart such joy. Because you were sharing your Shabbos. And you were singing the song of Shabbos. This was a miracle. And the world now is broken. The world now is destroyed. This miracle is destroyed unless you can fix the miracle. Can you fix the miracle? And the rich man said, Rebbe, we are just men. We're not God. Only God can do miracles. No, said the Rebbe. No. You can do miracles. Doctors cure the sick. Teachers teach children. You can heal the miracle. You can heal the miracle if you care. Reb Chaim listened to the Rebbe, looked in his face, in his eyes, and a thought came to him that had never come to him before. He turned to the poor man and he said, come by us. Come up to my house. Come to my house. We will share the Shabbos. And Yankel looked and said, really? But we are poor people. Don't worry, poor, rich, doesn't matter. I need to share. And God needs to share. You come by us. We'll make the Shabbos together. And so it was. The following Friday night, services ended and there were no challahs in the ark, but Reb Chaim waited at the ark. And there came Reb Yankel with all of his children, with his wife and her parents and his aunts and his uncles. And they all walked together up to Reb Chaim's house. And they all sat at the table at Reb Chaim's house. And they all shared challah and a whole Shabbos meal. And at the end the children sang and filled the halls of Reb Chaim's house with song and with joy. And you know what? It filled his heart with joy. It was the happiest Shabbos he'd ever had. And he said, next week, you'll come again. Yes, you'll come again, please. Rabbi Yankel says, sure, of course we'll come, of course. And they did. They shared the next week and the one after that. And all the years of their lives, they sat at the table and they sang the songs. And then the Rebbe looked at the Shamas. You are an evil man, a cruel man. You've done a terrible thing. You broke a miracle. Now you have to do tshuva. You have to fix what you broke. Rebbe, how can I fix a miracle? How can I fix the miracle? It's very simple, said the Rebbe. Tonight you're going to leave this town. You're going to leave, go. And you're going to wander the world. And everywhere you end up, you're to tell the story of Reb Chaim and Reb Yankel, the rich man, the poor man, and how they put challahs in the ark and brought joy to the heart of God. And when you're gone in the world, your children must share the story wherever they end up. And when it's their turn, their children must wander the world and tell the story of how the miracle was repaired by Reb Chaim and Reb Yankel, until every Jewish person in the world has heard the story and know that they too can fix the miracles of God. And tonight, dear friends, you've heard my story. And so my family obligation is complete. And I thank you for letting me do this. I wish you a good night and a good Shabbos. And may this Shabbos bring us a little bit of peace, some good health and strength. Take care of each other and be well. Shabbat Shalom.